I knew I had lost the bet the moment Olivia walked into my office and closed the door behind her. She was smiling, and strangely, that smile scared me more than losing ever could. Because our deal was simple, whoever lost had to do whatever the winner asked. I thought Olivia would embarrass me in front of everyone. Maybe she'd make me do some humiliating task in front of the entire office. But Olivia looked straight into my eyes and said, "Nathan, I know exactly what I want from you. Welcome back to our channel. My name is Nathan Cole. I was 33, a senior account manager at a mid-sized marketing firm in Columbus, and for 18 months, my professional life had orbited around one person, Olivia Hart. We started the same week. We were handed nearly identical territories. And within a month, everyone in the office had quietly picked sides, because watching the two of us compete had become better entertainment than anything on the breakroom TV. I want to be clear about something before I go further. Olivia and I weren't enemies. We weren't the kind of rivals who sabotaged each other or smiled through gritted teeth in meetings. We were the kind of rivals who genuinely respected each other and used that respect as fuel, which somehow made it worse, because you can't hate someone who keeps making you better at your job. She was sharp in a way that made most people in sales look like they were guessing. Dark blonde hair always pulled back for client calls, sharp gray eyes that caught details other people missed, and a habit of asking one more question in every meeting that ended up being the question that mattered. She didn't play games. She just won, consistently, and made it look effortless, which was infuriating when you were the person losing to her. The bet happened on a Tuesday in late September, in the break room, over bad coffee. Our quarterly numbers had been neck and neck for weeks, close enough that the whole office had started a betting pool of their own. Olivia leaned against the counter, stirring her coffee like she had all the time in the world. "Loser owes the winner one favor," she said. "Anything within reason. No take-backs." "Within reason," I repeated. That's doing a lot of work in that sentence. "You scared, Cole?" I wasn't going to say yes to that in front of Priya from accounting, who was very obviously listening while pretending to read a memo. Terrified, I said, absolutely shaking. "Deal." We shook on it like idiots, like two people who had never lost anything they actually cared about. For the next 6 weeks, I worked harder than I had in years, chasing leads at hours I used to consider sacred, staying late enough that the cleaning crew started greeting me by name. And I still lost. Not by a landslide. By exactly 2 accounts, which somehow felt worse than losing badly. Losing badly, you can blame luck. Losing by 2 accounts means you know exactly where you fell short. She found me at my desk on the Friday the quarter closed, numbers finalized, my name sitting quietly below hers on the leaderboard email that had gone out an hour earlier. "So," she said, dropping into the chair across from my desk like she owned it. "I believe you owe me something." "I believe I do," I said. "Let's get it over with." What am I doing? Wearing a chicken costume to the client mixer? Buying the whole floor lunch for a month? I've been mentally preparing for humiliation. Olivia tilted her head, studying me the way she studied a client's hesitation right before she closed a deal. "It's not that kind of favor. Now I'm nervous." "You should be," she said. But there was something underneath the joke, something careful. "I need you to come to my father's retirement dinner Saturday as my date." I actually laughed, because it sounded like the setup to something. "That's the favor? I thought you were going to make me eat something questionable on camera." "I'm serious," she said, and her voice had dropped the competitive edge entirely. "I need someone there who isn't going to ask me questions I don't want to answer in front of 40 of my father's colleagues." That was the first time in 18 months I'd seen Olivia Hart look uncertain about anything. "Why me?" I asked, because it was the obvious question and somebody had to say it out loud. She looked at her hands for a second before answering. "Because you're the only person at this company who's never once asked me to explain myself. You just compete. You don't pry." She met my eyes again. "I need someone who'll stand next to me and not make it a whole thing." I sat with that for a moment, because it was not what I expected to hear from her, not even close. "Okay," I said. "I can do that. You don't want to know more first?" You'll tell me what you want me to know, I said. I'm not going to make you audition for my sympathy. Something moved across her face, quick and unguarded, gone before I could name it. Saturday, 6 o'clock, she said, standing up too fast, like she needed to leave before the conversation got any more honest than it already had. Or something that doesn't look like you dressed for a client pitch. No promises. She almost smiled at that. Almost. Saturday came with the kind of gray afternoon that made you want to stay inside. But I put on the one suit I owned that didn't look like office armor and drove to the address Olivia had texted me. A country club on the north side of the city with a valet stand and a sign out front announcing Harold Whitfield's retirement celebration in gold script. Olivia was waiting near the entrance in a deep green dress, hair down for once instead of pulled back, and for a second I forgot we were co-workers who'd spent a year and a half trying to out-earn each other. "You clean up," she said, looking me over. "You say that like it's a surprise. It is a little bit." We walked in together, and I understood within the first 10 minutes why she'd needed backup. Her father, Harold, was the kind of man whose handshake came with an evaluation attached, the sort of person who introduced his daughter by her job title before her name. Her mother had passed years earlier, Olivia mentioned quietly while we found our table, and Harold had remarried a woman named Denise who smiled a lot and said very little that wasn't a subtle correction. "Olivia, sweetheart, you didn't mention you were bringing someone," Denise said when we reached the table, her eyes moving over me with polite calculation. This is Nathan," Olivia said smoothly. "We work together." "Work together," Denise repeated, like the words needed translating. "How nice." I caught the undertone immediately, the assumption sitting just beneath the surface, the same one I suspected had followed Olivia to every family event for years. Successful. Unattached. Something to be explained. Dinner started, and for a while, it was almost normal. Harold gave a speech about 40 years in commercial real estate, thanked the right people, made the right jokes. Olivia sat beside me, composed, engaged, doing everything right. But I noticed the way her shoulders tightened every time Denise leaned toward her with a question that wasn't really a question. "So, Olivia," Denise said during the main course, voice pitched just loud enough for the table to hear. "Any progress on the personal front? You know your father worries." "I'm doing well," Denise, Olivia said evenly. "Work's been good." "Work?" Denise said, like it was a consolation prize. "You're 31. Your cousin Michelle just had her second." I felt Olivia go very still beside me, the kind of stillness I recognized because I'd felt it myself in rooms where people decided your life needed correcting out loud. I set my fork down. "Olivia is actually having the best year of her career," I said, keeping my voice easy, conversational. "She closed nearly 40 accounts this quarter. I know because I was chasing her the entire time and still came up short." Denise blinked, clearly not expecting to redirect. "That's nice, but I meant." "I know what you meant," I said, still pleasant, still calm. "I just don't think a woman running circles around most of her industry needs her timeline audited at dinner." The table went quiet in that particular way tables go quiet when someone said something true that nobody was ready to hear. Harold cleared his throat and started talking about golf. Denise's smile got tighter and stayed that way for the rest of the course. Under the table, I felt Olivia's hand find mine, just for a second, just long enough to mean something. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. "I know," I said. "I wanted to." After dinner, once the toasts were finished and people had started drifting toward the bar, Olivia pulled me out to the terrace, away from the noise, the string lights overhead doing very little to cut the November chill. "I'm sorry about Denise," she said, arms wrapped around herself. "She does that every single time. I should have warned you. I don't need a warning to know how to stand up for someone." She looked at me then. Really looked, the way she looked at a client right before she figured out exactly what they weren't saying. "You keep doing that. Not making it a whole thing, and then making it exactly the right kind of thing. Is that a compliment?" "I'm still deciding," she said, but she was smiling now, small and real. My dad's never going to say it, but he's proud of me. He just doesn't know how to show it without Denise turning it into a referendum on my love life. For what it's worth, I said, closing 40 accounts in a quarter is objectively more impressive than anything Michelle's second kid has done so far. That got a real laugh out of her, the kind that surprised her as much as it surprised me. You're annoyingly good at this. At what? Making a bad night survivable. The wind picked up, and she shivered, and without thinking too hard about it, I took off my jacket and put it around her shoulders. She looked at me like she wasn't sure what to do with the gesture. This isn't part of the favor, she said quietly. I know, I said. I'm aware. For a second, neither of us said anything else. The party noise drifted out through the glass doors behind us, and somewhere inside, Denise was probably telling someone else's daughter she was worried about her too. Out here, it was just cold air and string lights and the strange, unfamiliar quiet of two people who'd spent 18 months competing, finally standing still together. Thank you, Olivia said finally, for coming. For tonight. Anytime, I said, and meant it more than I expected to. She drove me back to my car afterward, the radio low, both of us quieter than we'd been all night, the kind of quiet that isn't empty, just full of things neither of us was ready to say yet. Monday morning, the office went back to normal, or something close to it. Olivia and I fell back into our usual rhythm, competitive banter over coffee, side eyes across the sales floor, the occasional jab about who'd closed the bigger account that week. But something had shifted underneath it, subtle enough that I couldn't have explained it to anyone else, obvious enough that I felt it every time she walked past my desk. It was Priya from accounting who said something first, cornering me by the printer on a Wednesday. So you and Olivia, she said, not really a question. We're co-workers, I said automatically. Sure, Priya said, unconvinced. Co-workers who spent a country club dinner holding hands under the table. My cousin's a server there. Small world. I felt my ears go warm, which was answer enough for her. She just smiled and walked off with her coffee, entirely too pleased with herself. I didn't bring it up with Olivia. I figured if something was going to happen, it should happen because she wanted it to, not because Priya had turned it into breakroom gossip. But 2 weeks later, she showed up at my desk after hours, when most of the floor had cleared out, holding 2 coffees from the place across the street. Peace offering, she said, setting one down in front of me. For losing the next quarter's opening numbers to you. I saw the projections. You're going to beat me this time. You're conceding before the quarter even starts? I'm being realistic, she said, sitting on the edge of my desk like she had every right to be there, which by that point, she kind of did. You've been different since the dinner. Sharper. Almost annoyingly focused. Maybe I had something to prove. To me? To myself, I said. Turns out watching someone stand up for you does something to a person's motivation. She went quiet at that, studying me the way she'd studied me on the terrace. Can I ask you something? And I need you to actually answer instead of being charming about it. I'll try. Why did you really say yes to the dinner? You could have picked anything easier. Free lunches, an easy account, literally anything. I thought about lying, making a joke of it, the way I usually did when a conversation got close to something real. But she'd asked me not to be charming, and for once, I decided to actually listen. Because I've spent 18 months trying to beat you, I said, and somewhere in there I stopped wanting to beat you and started just wanting to know you. The bet gave me an excuse to find out if that was mutual, or if I was making it up in my head. Olivia set her coffee down slowly. You could have just asked me to dinner. As an actual date. You didn't need to lose a bet first. Would you have said yes? She considered that longer than I expected. Probably not, she admitted. I don't do well with people who ask nicely. I do well with people who show up and don't make it weird. So the bet worked out. The bet worked out, she agreed, and there was something warm in her voice that hadn't been there in any of our 18 months of competing. For what it's worth, Nathan, I would have said yes eventually. You would have just had to wear me down a little more. I'm patient, I said. I closed 40 accounts in a quarter. I can wait out a woman who pretends she doesn't want to be asked to dinner. I never said I didn't want to be asked. Are you asking me to ask you? Her mouth curved, careful and amused. I'm saying the door's open. What you do with that is up to you. I stood, walked around the desk, and stopped close enough that the office around us disappeared into background noise. Olivia Hart, I said, would you like to have dinner with me? No bet, no favor, no 40 people watching to see if I'll defend your honor. That's oddly specific. I'm building on prior experience. She laughed, and it was the same unguarded sound from the terrace, the one that made the whole ridiculous rivalry between us feel like it had been leading somewhere the whole time. Yes, she said. I'd like that. Our first real date happened that Friday, at a small Italian place 2 blocks from the office. No clients, no coworkers, no Denise asking pointed questions about anyone's timeline. Olivia showed up in jeans and a sweater, hair down again, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen her look inside the building we spend our days competing in. This is strange, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Being here with you and not immediately wanting to know your quarterly numbers. Give it time, I said. I'm sure it'll come up. It didn't, not really. We talked about things that had nothing to do with sales targets or client accounts. The kind of ordinary conversation that tells you more about a person than any pitch meeting ever could. She'd grown up outside Cincinnati, the only child of parents who divorced when she was 12, her mother gone 6 years now, her father's second marriage a subject she navigated with the same careful precision she brought to closing a difficult deal. I think that's part of why I'm so competitive, she admitted, halfway through her pasta. Growing up, achievement was the only language my dad really spoke. Grades, awards, promotions. If I wasn't winning something, I wasn't sure he was paying attention. And now? Now I just like winning, she said, but it doesn't feel like survival anymore. It feels like actually enjoying my job, which is new. When did that change? She looked at me for a long moment. Around the time a very stubborn account manager stopped letting me win by default and started actually making me work for it. I take full credit. You should. It's mostly your fault. We didn't rush anything after that first dinner. There was no dramatic declaration, no sudden leap from rivals to something else entirely. It built slowly, the way real things tend to, dinners after work that turned into weekends, competitive banter that softened at the edges without losing its spark, the office pool that had once tracked our sales numbers quietly shifting to track something else entirely, something Priya took entirely too much credit for starting. Harold found out about 2 months in, at a family lunch Olivia invited me to without much warning, which I understood by then was her way of testing whether things were serious. Denise, predictably, had opinions. So this is official now? Denise asked over lunch, glancing between us. The coworker? His name is Nathan, Olivia said, patient in a way she hadn't been at the retirement dinner. And yes, it's official. Harold studied me for a long moment. The same evaluating handshake energy from our first meeting, before he said, "You're the one who talked back to Denise at the country club." I braced myself. "I did, sir." To my surprise, something that might have been the start of a smile crossed his face. "Good," he said. "Somebody needed to. Been meaning to for years myself." Denise's mouth tightened, but she didn't say anything else about timelines for the rest of the lunch. 6 months later, Olivia and I both hit our quarterly numbers within one account of each other, close enough that the office pool declared it a tie for the first time in the company's history. We celebrated with dinner at the same Italian place from our first date, and somewhere between the appetizer and the entree, she got quiet in a way I'd learned to pay attention to. "Can I tell you something?" she said. "I've never told anyone at work this. Always. I used to think if I ever stopped competing with you, I'd lose the version of myself that actually liked showing up every day," she said. "Turns out I didn't lose her. I just stopped needing to win against you to feel like her. I just needed you standing next to me instead of across from me." I reached across the table and took her hand, steady this time, no bet attached to it, no favor owed. "For what it's worth," I said, "I never actually wanted to beat you. I think some part of me just wanted an excuse to keep showing up wherever you were. A year after that dinner, I proposed in the same country club terrace where I'd first put my jacket around her shoulders, string lights overhead. No 40 guests this time, just the two of us and a ring I'd been carrying around in my jacket pocket for 2 weeks, waiting for the right kind of quiet. "You're doing this here," she said, laughing through what were very clearly happy tears, "on the exact spot Denise ruined dinner for me." "I'm reclaiming the location," I said, building on prior experience. She said yes before I'd even finished getting the ring out, then laughed at herself for jumping ahead. The same way she probably closed every deal that ever mattered to her, decisive, unafraid, entirely herself. Denise, for the record, cried harder than anyone at the wedding, which Olivia still brings up whenever her stepmother tries to comment on anything involving timelines. Years later, when people ask how we met, Olivia tells it exactly the way it happened. "We were work rivals who made a stupid bet," she says, "and he lost, and the punishment was standing next to me at the worst dinner of my year." And I always add the same thing. Turns out losing that bet was the best quarter I ever had. What would you have done if you lost a bet to your biggest work rival and the reward wasn't what you expected at all? And have you ever had a rivalry with someone that turned into something you never saw coming? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.